Sara hadn't always noticed the silence. In the early years, it was comforting, a kind of quiet that came after shared laughter and late-night talks. But lately, that silence had turned heavier, more suffocating. It followed her through the house like a shadow she couldn't shake. Adil wasn't cruel. He wasn't unfaithful. He wasn't anything, really. He was tired. Every day. Always tired. He'd come home from the office, mumble a half-hearted greeting, then disappear into his laptop, the glow of his screen replacing the warmth that once lit their home. She didn't resent him, not yet, but she had begun to forget what it felt like to be seen. Their anniversary had passed last week. She had worn the same navy blue dress he once called dangerously beautiful. That night, he barely looked up. He didn't notice the candles, or the effort, or her. His only words were, "Did we run out of toothpaste?" She'd nodded, swallowed the lump in her throat, and added it to the grocery list. On Friday, Adil invited her to his company dinner more out of formality than enthusiasm. Still, Sara agreed. She curled her hair, put on soft makeup, and reminded herself that appearances mattered. Maybe, she thought, tonight would be different. That's where she met Zishan. He was the opposite of Adil in every way. Where Adil was distant, Zishan was disarmingly present. He smiled like he meant it, looked her in the eye when he spoke. And when he said, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Sara," he said it like it was. At dinner, Adil spoke to his colleagues. Zishan spoke to her. "You must be the real hero behind Adil's success," he joked, raising his glass. Sara smiled politely, unsure how to respond. "You don't say much," he added with a playful shrug. "But you listen like someone who understands more than most." She laughed genuinely. The sound startled her. Later that week, it rained. Adil had promised to pick her up from the salon. He forgot. She waited for 20 minutes, tried calling twice. No answer, just voicemail. That's when a black sedan slowed down beside her. The window rolled down. "Zishan, need a ride?" he asked, his tone casual, almost friendly. Sara hesitated. It wasn't proper. It wasn't wise. But neither was standing drenched on a sidewalk while her husband ignored her calls. She got in. The car smelled like cedar and mint. Warm air from the heater kissed her cheeks. "I guess chivalry isn't dead," she said lightly. Zishan chuckled. "Just underpaid and overworked." They spoke in fragments: weather, traffic, favorite places to eat. But the silence between words felt oddly charged. Not uncomfortable, just alive. As he pulled up in front of her house, he turned to her and said, "You don't have to explain this ride to anyone. But just for the record, you deserve to be remembered." Sara said nothing. Her fingers clutched her purse. She stepped out before she could respond, before she could feel too much. Inside the house, the lights were off. Adil was home, his figure hunched over the laptop. He looked up briefly. "You made it," he said. "I did," she replied. He went back to typing. Sara stood in the hallway, shoes still on, bag still in hand, her mind spinning. She felt a twinge of guilt. Not because of what she'd done, but because of how it had made her feel. Warm, visible, real. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan spinning silently overhead. She wasn't sure which part troubled her more, that Zishan had said something no one had said in years, or that he had meant it. Sara tried to convince herself it was nothing. A kind gesture, a polite conversation. Nothing more. But Zishan's words clung to her thoughts like perfume on fabric, faint but persistent. "You deserve to be remembered." What troubled her wasn't just the sentence, it was how much she wanted it to be true. The next morning began like all others. Adil sipped his black coffee, eyes scanning the news on his tablet. Sara placed 2 slices of toast in front of him. He didn't look up. "You have a meeting today?" she asked, more out of habit than interest. "Back to back till 5, he replied. "No thanks for breakfast." No return question, just a quiet grunt and the clinking of his spoon. Sara nodded. She cleared the table in silence. By afternoon, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message. "Hope you didn't catch a cold last night. Zishan." Sara stared at the screen for a full minute. Her fingers hovered. Then, I'm fine, thank you. And thanks again for the ride. She deleted the thread. Moments later. But the next message came the following day. Then another. Light jokes, casual greetings, observations about the weather. She responded sparingly, always brief, but she didn't block the number. Each reply brought a flicker of something, attention, excitement. She couldn't name it, but it was the first time in months she had looked forward to hearing from someone. On Saturday, as she dressed for a grocery run, she applied a bit of lipstick. Nothing dramatic, just a soft coral shade. Adil didn't notice when she stepped outside. A message blinked on her phone. That color suits you. Just saw you near the pharmacy. Her heart skipped. She looked around but saw no one. She didn't reply. That night, guilt stirred. She scrolled through her inbox, rereading the harmless exchanges. No confessions, no invitations, just interest. Was that so wrong? Still, she deleted everything before sleeping. The next morning, she met Amna for coffee. You look good, Amna said, stirring her cappuccino. New lipstick? Sara smiled. Trying to look less dead, Amna laughed, then paused. Everything okay at home? Sara hesitated. Same as always, which is quiet. There was a silence between them, the kind only close friends could share. You've been checking your phone a lot, Amna said gently. Sara blinked. Just updates from someone who isn't your husband. Sara looked away. She didn't answer. I'm not judging, Amna continued, voice low. But be careful, Sara. A man noticing you doesn't mean he values you. Sara nodded, her throat tight. I know. That evening, Adil came home late again. Exhausted, distant, he muttered something about a failed server and dropped his bag by the door. Sara had cooked his favorite chicken handi with butter naan. He didn't touch it. I'll eat later, he mumbled, disappearing into the bedroom. The food went cold on the table. She sat across from an empty chair, staring at her untouched plate, stomach full of unspoken words. Her phone buzzed again. Rough day, Zishan. This time, she didn't delete the message. She didn't respond either, but she read it twice. The next day, he sent a voice note. Her thumb hovered over the play button. Her breath caught. She listened. I'm not trying to make things complicated. I just think someone should tell you how amazing you are. That's all. Her eyes welled. She covered her mouth and shut off the screen. That night, Adil didn't come home until past midnight. Sara heard the door open, the keys drop, his shoes kicked off. No explanations, no apology. She stayed in bed, wide awake. The silence between them had grown louder than any argument. And in that silence, Zishan's voice echoed. Sara didn't plan to reply, not at first. She had played the voice note twice the night before, then deleted it. Her heart raced at the sound of Zishan's words, not because they were provocative, but because they were kind. And kind felt foreign. The next morning, she looked at Adil across the breakfast table. He was checking emails on his phone, the untouched toast growing stale on his plate. He hadn't spoken to her since walking in at midnight. She cleared her throat. Do you want tea? He didn't look up. Already had some at the office. It was Sunday. Sara blinked. You're going to work? There's a system audit. Won't take long. He stood up, adjusted his shirt collar, and left the house with a distracted nod. No kiss, no glance back. 10 minutes later, her phone buzzed, still pretending everything's fine. Zishan. This time, she replied, I'm not pretending. I'm just surviving. His response came quickly. Then maybe you should stop surviving and start choosing. That line stuck, not because it was bold, but because she couldn't decide whether it was dangerous or honest. Around noon, Zishan messaged again. Lunch? Just lunch. My place. No pressure. Sara stared at the invitation for a long time. Her instincts screamed caution. Her heart, however, ached for someone to just listen. She typed and erased twice. Finally, okay, just lunch. She didn't Tell Amna. She didn't dress provocatively, just a beige blouse and black jeans. Casual, neutral, safe. Zishan's apartment was modern and tidy. A small glass table set for two. Soft instrumental music in the background. No candles, no wine. But the intent lingered in the air like unsaid words. You look like someone who hasn't smiled in a while, he said gently. I wasn't sure if I should come. I'm glad you did. Lunch was quiet, but not awkward. He asked about her hobbies, her childhood, her dreams. Adil hadn't asked her those questions in years. When she really laughed, it startled her again. Zishan leaned back in his chair. I don't want to make things harder for you, he said after a pause. But I'd regret it if I never told you how special I think you are. Sara exhaled, slow and shallow. You say that like it's simple. It's not. But the truth rarely is. She stood to leave. I should go. He didn't stop her, just followed her to the door. Before she stepped out, he gently touched her arm. If you ever need someone, I'm here. No expectations. She nodded. Her heart felt both heavier and lighter. Back home, the house was empty. Adil had texted, working late again. Don't wait up. Sara sat alone on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. Was this how loneliness worked? Not in dramatic heartbreak, but in the slow erosion of attention, of kindness? She checked her phone. Zishan hadn't messaged again. Instead, a voice popped into her mind. Amna's. Talk to Adil. Fix what's broken. Don't run from it. But what if Adil had already left emotionally, if not physically? At midnight, Adil finally walked in. His eyes were tired. His tie loosened. He smelled like strong coffee and computer servers. You're still up? He asked. Sara nodded. He paused, as if contemplating something more. Then, I'm thinking we should take a weekend off. Somewhere quiet. Just us. It took her a moment to respond. You remembered? He gave a weak smile. We've been distant. I noticed. Her throat tightened. What changed? I found an old picture of us yesterday. You were laughing, wearing that stupid straw hat. Sara managed a laugh. I still have that hat. Adil stepped closer. Maybe we should find that version of us again. For the first time in months, she saw a flicker of something familiar in his eyes. Regret, effort, maybe even love. And in that moment, just as the silence began to dissolve, her phone buzzed on the side table. Adil glanced at it, then at her. The screen lit up with a name, Zishan.